My name is Sophia Miller, and today, as I sit in my glass-walled office overlooking downtown San Francisco, I can't help but smile at the irony of it all. The city sparkles beneath me, silver towers catching the late morning sun, the steady hum of traffic far below. I smooth the silk sleeve of my navy blouse, the kind of fabric I used to only see in store windows, and take a quiet breath. Most people see me now as composed, powerful, untouchable. To them, I'm the woman who owns Miller Technologies, the software company that powers apps they use every single day. But what no one sees, what I rarely allow myself to remember, is how close I once came to losing everything before it even began. The vibration of my phone breaks my thoughts. It's lying on the corner of my sleek mahogany desk, buzzing insistently, flashing a name I haven't spoken aloud in years. My mother. For a moment, my chest tightens. I stare at the screen, remembering nights when that same name meant safety, love, and home. Now, it drags me back to the bitter memory of the day she and my father sold the only thing that mattered to me back then, my laptop. The very object that had carried my dreams, my code, my future. I press my thumb against the cool glass of the phone, debating whether to answer. My employees laugh somewhere in the hall, their voices distant. Here I am, the woman in heels clicking confidently across marble floors, yet inside, a part of me is still that teenage girl whose world shattered in one single afternoon. And now, fate has brought them back to me. I was 17 when my world cracked open. Back then, my life revolved around a beat-up silver laptop. It wasn't much to look at. The keyboard was missing the E, and the screen had a faint line running down the middle. But to me, it was everything. It was where I wrote my first lines of code, where I stayed up until 2 a.m. teaching myself how to build apps, where I dared to believe that maybe, just maybe, a girl from a small town in Ohio could create something that mattered. My parents never understood. To them, I was wasting time. My father, Daniel Miller, worked long shifts at the auto shop, and my mother, Linda, carried the weight of bills and groceries on her shoulders. They wanted me to be practical.
Doctor, teacher,
Maybe an office assistant. Coding? That was nonsense. I'll never forget that Saturday morning. I'd left my laptop on the dining table after another long night of designing a small game I hoped to release online. When I came downstairs, the table was empty. At first, I thought maybe Mom had moved it. But then I saw the envelope on the counter, $200 in cash, held together with a rubber band. "Where's my laptop?" I asked, my voice already shaking. My father didn't even look up from his coffee. "We sold it, Sophia. You need to focus on real opportunities, not fantasy projects." The room spun. My throat closed as if someone had wrapped a fist around it. You sold it?" My mom touched my arm gently, her eyes tired. "Honey, we need the money. And you need to stop hiding behind that machine. This is for the best." Tears burned my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. My hands trembled against the countertop, nails digging into the wood. In that moment, it wasn't just a laptop they took. It was my trust, my safe place, my future. I ran upstairs, slamming the door behind me. The walls muffled their voices, but not the ache in my chest. I wanted to scream, to beg, to make them understand that they had just crushed the only dream I had. That night, curled under my blanket, I held the only thing I had left, a small leather notebook my grandmother had given me before she passed. Inside the cover, she had written in her looping handwriting, "Sophia, never let anyone decide the size of your dreams." I stared at those words until they blurred through my tears. And that was the night I promised myself, if I couldn't have my laptop, I would still find a way. The weeks after my parents sold my laptop felt like walking through a storm with no umbrella. I had nothing but my grandmother's notebook and a stubborn fire in my chest. Still, I wasn't ready to give up. I scraped together money babysitting, working shifts at a diner, and tutoring classmates in math. After 3 months of saving every crumpled bill and coin, I bought a second-hand desktop computer from a pawn shop. The keys stuck, and the fan rattled so loudly I had to wear headphones just to think. But it was mine. My hands shook when I powered it on for the first time, as if I were touching a lifeline. I dove headfirst into coding again, free tutorials, late-night forums, YouTube lectures. Most nights, I stayed up past midnight, surviving on ramen and instant coffee. My eyes stung from exhaustion, my fingers cramped, but with every bug I fixed, with every project I finished, I felt closer to reclaiming what was stolen. Still, doubt followed me everywhere. Some nights, I stared at the cracked ceiling and wondered if my parents were right, if I was just a foolish girl wasting her time. It was during one of those restless nights that I stumbled onto an online coding challenge. The prize wasn't money, it was mentorship with a senior developer at a startup in San Francisco. I entered on a whim, submitting a clunky little productivity app I'd built. When I got the email saying I'd placed in the top 5, I almost dropped my phone. That's how I met Rachel Donovan, a sharp, no-nonsense woman with 30 years in tech. She wasn't like my parents. She didn't laugh at my ideas. She looked at me through the glow of our first Zoom call and said, "Sophia, you've got something rare, raw talent and grit. Don't waste it." Rachel became my mentor, my guide. She taught me not only how to code better, but also how to think like a businesswoman. She'd critique my designs, push me to pitch ideas, and remind me to stop apologizing for existing. The first real breakthrough came when a small local business hired me to build their online booking system. I charged them $300, a fortune to me then, and worked nights after school to deliver. When I handed it over and saw their smiles, I realized I wasn't just coding. I was solving problems, creating value. From there, the jobs trickled in. A website for a bakery, an app for a tutor, small freelance gigs that paid in little chunks but built my confidence brick by brick. Every dollar went back into my dream, upgrading my computer, buying books, enrolling in online courses. I kept my success quiet. On social media, I posted the bare minimum graduation photos, the occasional birthday. If my parents asked how I was, I shrugged and said, "I'm figuring things out." I didn't tell them about Rachel. I didn't tell them about my clients. I wanted them to think I was ordinary, because one day, I planned to show them just how extraordinary I'd become. And that day was coming sooner than I realized. The call from my mother didn't end with a voicemail. She followed it with an email, short, polite, almost timid. "Sophia, we're visiting San Francisco next week. We'd love to see you." I stared at the words for a long time. My heart twisted. Part of me wanted to delete it, to let the silence between us stretch on forever. But another part, the girl who once begged them not to take her laptop, wanted them to finally see. Not just see me, but see the woman I had fought to become. So I agreed. The following Thursday, I waited in my office. My company's headquarters occupied the top floor of a gleaming tower in Soma. Sunlight poured through the floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating clean white walls, sleek furniture, and vibrant artwork I'd collected from local women artists. The hum of creativity filled the space, my developers typing, my project managers laughing softly in the break room. I heard the elevator ding, followed by hesitant footsteps. My parents stepped inside, looking oddly small against the glass and steel. My father's hair had grayed at the temples, his once confident strides seemed slower. My mother clutched her purse like a shield, her eyes scanning everything with quiet awe. "Wow," she whispered. "Sophia, this building is beautiful." I smiled, calm but deliberate. "It's mine." My father blinked. "Yours." I motioned for them to follow me into the conference room, a space with polished oak tables, leather chairs, and a skyline view that still made me catch my breath sometimes. On the wall hung framed patents, awards, and a giant photo of my team at our last product launch. My parents sat stiffly across from me. I let the silence stretch, their eyes darting from one frame to another, their confusion growing with every second. Finally, my mother asked, "Sophia, what exactly is this place?" I leaned forward, folding my hands on the table. "This is Miller Technologies, the company I founded 6 years ago. The company I own." My father frowned. "You mean you work here?" "No, Dad," I said gently but firmly. "I don't work for anyone. I run it. The software we develop, Millions of people use it every single day. The investors, the employees, the entire operation. It's mine. The words hung in the air like thunder. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. Oh my God. My father's face paled. But how? You didn't, he stopped, realizing the irony. I tilted my head, meeting his eyes. Remember the laptop you sold? You thought you were closing a door. But what you really did was push me through another one. I taught myself. I hustled. I built everything from scratch. And now, I gestured around the room, the building, the city sprawled beneath us. Now, this is my life. The silence that followed was heavy. My father's shoulders slumped as if the weight of every dismissal, every word of doubt, pressed down on him all at once. My mother's eyes shimmered with tears, regret pooling faster than she could hide. I let them sit with it. The leather chairs creaked as they shifted uncomfortably, absorbing the truth. For once, I wasn't the teenager begging to be believed. I was the woman who had proved them wrong. When I finally spoke again, my voice was steady. You sold my laptop. And today, I own the software company that makes the kind of technology people once told me was impossible. Do you see the irony? Neither of them answered, but their silence, stunned, raw, humbled, was more powerful than any words they could have offered. I let the silence linger, watching them absorb the weight of everything I had said. For years, I had dreamed of this moment, not as revenge, but as clarity. And now it was here. My mother was the first to speak. Sophia, we didn't know. We didn't realize what that laptop meant to you. We thought we were protecting you. Her voice cracked, her eyes glossy. My father's jaw tightened. He looked down at his hands, rough and scarred from years at the auto shop. For once, he had no quick response, no lecture. Only silence. I leaned back in my chair, folding my arms. I've thought about this day for a long time, and I had to decide. What do I do with you now? Do I push you away the way you pushed me? Or do I give you a chance to grow? They looked up, startled. I'm willing to let you back into my life, I continued, my voice calm but unyielding. But there are conditions. My mother nodded quickly, almost desperately. Anything, sweetheart. Tell us. I turned to her first. Mom, you gave up your dreams too early. You loved painting. I remember sneaking into the basement and finding your canvases stacked against the wall, covered in dust. I want you to start again. Take a class, join a studio, whatever it takes, but no more hiding your passion. If I can build an empire from nothing, you can pick up a paintbrush again. Tears slipped down her cheeks. She covered her mouth, nodding fiercely. Then I shifted my gaze to my father. Dad, all my life you told me to be realistic, to stay small. You dismissed me because you didn't understand me. If you want to be part of my world now, that ends. No more belittling dreams, mine, Mom's, or anyone else's. You don't get to shrink the people you love. His shoulders sagged, his eyes glistening though he tried to blink it away. You're right, he said quietly, his voice gravelly. I was wrong. Finally, I drew a breath and spoke the last condition. You both need to respect me, not as your daughter who needs your approval, but as the woman I've become. If you want to be in my life, it has to be on equal footing. No more control, no more dismissing my choices. I've earned my seat at this table. The conference room felt still, almost sacred. My parents exchanged a glance, their expressions heavy with regret, but also something softer, acceptance. My mother reached across the table, her hand trembling. Sophia, we don't deserve your forgiveness. But we'll try. We'll do better. For the first time in years, I let myself smile. Good. Because I don't need you to be perfect. I just need you to be real. And to let me be who I am. They both nodded, the weight of my words sinking in. The power had shifted, not in anger, but in balance. For once, I wasn't the girl begging to be seen. I was the woman setting the terms. And they knew it. In the weeks that followed, I noticed small shifts. My mother sent me photos of canvases she had pulled out of storage, half-finished landscapes, portraits smudged with time. A week later, She texted me a picture of herself in a painting class, her smile wide and unguarded, a splash of blue paint on her cheek. For the first time in decades, she looked alive in a way I barely remembered. My father called me one evening, his voice gruff but softer than I'd ever heard. "Sophia," he said, clearing his throat, "a kid at the shop told me he wants to start his own business." Normally, I'd have told him to be realistic, but instead, I told him about you, about what you built. I swallowed hard, my heart both aching and healing in the same beat. "Thanks, Dad." It wasn't perfect. Old habits didn't vanish overnight. But there was effort, change, a recognition that I had needed for years. And in that effort, I found a sliver of peace. Late one night, after a long day at the office, I sat alone in my corner suite, the city glittering outside my window. On my desk sat the worn leather notebook my grandmother had given me, the same one that had carried me through the darkest nights. I opened the cover and traced her words with my fingertip. "Never let anyone decide the size of your dreams." Tears welled in my eyes, not from sadness, but from gratitude, for her wisdom, for my resilience, for the fire that had never gone out. I thought about the girl I used to be, the one who cried when her parents sold her laptop, who felt invisible and small. I wished I could reach back through time, wrap her in my arms, and whisper, "Don't worry. One day they'll see you. One day, the world will know your name." I closed the notebook gently, a smile tugging at my lips. Because the truth was undeniable now. They had taken away my laptop, but in doing so, they had unknowingly handed me my destiny. And today, I wasn't just the girl who lost something. I was the woman who owned it all.